Now, we've got 4 microphones out there in the audience, 2 on this side, 2 on this side. Go ahead and start lining up. We're going to switch it over to you guys here shortly, but I like getting us started with digging a little bit into what you were into. What were you a fan of growing up? Many of us grew up, some of us in childhood, some of us in adult childhood with Buffy. What were you? I mean, you've done so much work. You've got a musical like Repo. You've done supernatural science fiction like Buffy. So many different things. The work doesn't always reflect the fandom. You take the gig you get. What were you into? What was your thing that you were into like we're into Buffy?
You're not going to know. None of you are going to know.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I was into Whirlybirds and Rin Tin Tin. Means nothing to anyone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I've seen Rin Tin Tin.
Yeah?
I mean, one of the versions of it.
That was when I was very small, so that's a long time ago, guys.
It's the magic of DVD.
It's true. Oh my God, we live in a different world now. You can see what I saw when I was a child. I've always been into science fiction too. I'm just trying to think. I mean, obviously, Doctor Who. I saw them.
Whoa. I'm sorry to stop you there, but I have to ask, who is your doctor? Everyone has a different doctor.
Actually, well, apart from William Hartnell, which won't mean much to you guys, but he was the first. He was extraordinary. There'd been nothing like him on TV before. But also Patrick Troughton. He was the first takeover, and he was extraordinary. Just a great actor, and he had a recorder.
What was it about Doctor Who that captivated your imagination? What was it?
It was the first. I mean, I remember when it first aired, literally, and I was watching it with my parents, and the music, because the music was written by a guy called Ron Granger, Ron Reyes, who wrote the theme music to something my mum did. She did a thing called Meg Ray, and it was the BBC Stereophonic Workshop that did that noise thing, and it was just like I'd never seen anything like it on TV before. It was just cool.
What motivated you to get into acting as a profession? Is it something you stumbled into? Is it something that was an early interest of yours?
It was in the home. My mum was an actress. My dad was a documentary film producer, director, and so it wasn't a sort of a far leap. But I always remembered, like age 6, there was a friend's mum who used to put on a play every year. She used to get in a little sort of stage, and we'd put it on for the parents. And I ended up, the second year running, I was the emperor in the Emperor's New Clothes, and I wasn't naked, okay? I was wearing combinations. But I remember walking down through the audience and everybody turning to look at me, and I went, well, this is kind of cool. I think I'd like to do this. But then, since then, I've thought about it, and actually, when I was really small, it was Ron Grainer, not Granger. Anyway, his missus Margot used to do a play group, and she came to my parents one day, I used to go to, and she said, it's really nice that Anthony comes dressed up as his heroes, because I used to dress up to go to the play group. But it would be really nice to see Anthony one day, because when I dressed up as my heroes, I was my hero, and Rusty from Rin Tin Tin was my hero. I could just wear a scarf and a hat, and I was Rusty. That was it. In fact, sometimes I did.
Daniel Day-Lewis as a child.
It's true.
You've lived the part. Well, let's talk a little bit about playing Giles. When this role came to you, what did it look like on the page to you? Was it an interesting challenge to take on, an interesting script? What was it that made you interested?
It was. I remember I was in a Tex-Mex restaurant in Santa Monica on 5th Street, I think it was, and I was on my own. I was an Englishman abroad, reading scripts, going up for various stuff, and I just read the script. I had 3 of them, and I was just flicking through, just absolutely astonished at how good it was. It was funny, and then you couldn't wait to turn the page. And I remember a mate of mine lived in the valley he plays piano on my last album. He's great. He played piano on the version of Behind Blue Eyes that I did. Tom, and I remember going into his place to have a coffee on my way, and I said, I really want this gig. This is the best gig I've read. And he said, well, you'll get it. And I did. But when I read it, I said to Joss, I met Joss, and I said, so this kind of reads somewhere between Prince Charles. Prince Charles is sort of basically like that. Pretty good, yes. And Alan Rickman, who'd just been, at the time, he'd just done Robin of Sherwood, he'd just done Prince of Thieves, and as the Sheriff of Nottingham. It was brilliant. And I said, so, which way would you like me to go? And he said, well, what about both? So I did my best, and I got it.
We're going to go ahead and grab some of these audience questions. There are a lot of you lined up. Goodness, I should have just turned it right over to you. Let's start right over here.
Hello. I just wanted to ask about what was your favorite moment playing as Uther Pendragon in Merlin?
I think it was actually, I mean there were a few, but I remember vividly the sword fight I had with Bradley. Because it was a great scene. It's when he basically realised that I had betrayed him, and he comes at me with a sword in the throne chamber, and he actually he hit me over the head with a sword at one point, and he always prided himself on how good he was with the sword. But it was great because it was directed by a guy that I came to work with a couple of times, met him as a great director, and there was a very emotional moment at the end of it, and I was pushing a little, and I thought it was kind of good, and then met him, I can't remember what he said to me, he said something, just whispered something in my ear, and then the next take, it was tears, lots of tears, so it was a great kind of, it was sort of father and son finally coming to blows. And I don't know, it was very very hands-on and very emotional.
I thought you were going to say wearing all that chainmail was your favorite thing. I'm sure that was lovely, right?
Absolutely.
It's in a way a thing. Thank you. Next question up here up top.
Hello. I'm more familiar with some of your more recent work on Merlin, Still Star-Crossed, and your cameo on Gallivant. I'm wondering if the costume thing was part of why you got into those shows.
Well, the costume thing, as you can tell, apart from the combinations, was the reason why I became an actor, I guess. In as much as, I don't know if anybody else has said this before, but ultimately, pretty much all actors are lacking in self-confidence and have sort of issues, which is why they like dressing up and pretending to be someone else. But yeah, I mean, yes, I mean the costumes on Still Star-Crossed and on Merlin were fantastic. I mean, swanning through the castle at Pierrefonds with a cloak, and the only thing was the chainmail was actually quite heavy. By the end of the day, you were sort of staggering around, and going to the bathroom was no fun. Seriously, just too many layers. But and where do you put your sword?
The eternal question we're all trying to answer. Indeed, where? There are children in the audience, Anthony. Right over here.
Hi, Anthony.
Hello.
You might remember me from my autograph yesterday.
Where are you? Put your hand up, yes?
It was very memorable.
Hello.
Hi. So I have a bit of a two-part question for you.
Yes.
After filming Buffy, you know, you had so many years off, and then going on Warehouse...
So many years off?
Sorry, I meant to working with James.
Right.
And then you get reunited on Warehouse 13.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. What was that like, to be like reunited with him and or just working on Warehouse 13?
Oh, it was great. I'd seen him a few times. I've been to see. He played a gig at Bristol, and I went with my daughters to see him. And we'd hung out a couple of times. I think we did a convention in Australia together. But it was lovely to work with him. I hadn't worked with him, for a long time. And Warehouse 13 was great fun because the character had been bronzed for centuries and was sort of one of those people whose brain would just not stop. And I figured, if you were bronzed for all that time and your brain was still active and was just going round and round and round in circles, you'd be barking by the time he came out. And so I watched a favourite actor of mine, Klaus Maria Brandauer, who is the villain in the Sean Connery sort of remake of Bond called Never Say Never. It's not a great film, but what it is...
It's a fascinating curiosity, though.
It is, but Klaus Maria Brandauer, who plays the villain, is fantastic, and he is barking in it. And so I watched him, and I borrowed some stuff from him. So my first scene with James, when I'm just playing with him, with his, it well, not literally, obviously, but
turned into a whole different community all of a sudden.
But playing soldiers or whatever.
Just messing around, just doing whatever.
Messing as you do. But anyway, no, I was messing with his head, and it was good fun. And yeah, we had a good time. We had a good time.
And then my other question is, we all know you can sing.
I think we can say, hell yeah, we do.
Thank you.
So I was wondering if you could sing something, whether it's from Buffy, Repo,
My Fair Lady, just, anything. Who cares? My Chemical Romance.
or you could just serenade me with a love song.
I'll kill some time while he thinks. One of the things that I love most about Once More with Feeling is you just take the place, man. You open your mouth and start singing, and you don't tell any of the other cast members I said this. You totally steal the whole thing.
Not true, but thank you. No, not true. Good grief.
Well, James has the bleach hair and he's so pretty. Yeah, whatever.
Well, in deference to someone who is here, and in fact a few people who are here, I could do a couple of lines. How do you do? I see you've met my faithful handyman. Can't remember the rest of it.
You got all of the anticipation.
Oh yeah. That's at the end of the song.
No, that's what I'm saying. We have to skip to the end because that's all we have.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at that. You got him to sing. You didn't even have to pay him. Right over here. You next. You.
Hi. Which episode, speaking of Once More with Feeling, which episode did you like better, Hush or Once More with Feeling?
Favorite child, Anthony. Favorite child.
They're both a little different. There is no, basically, when people say, what's your favorite episode, I'd list off a few. One that no one's ever expecting, and I've said a couple of times this weekend, is The Body. It's not the happiest, but it's amazing. Extraordinary piece of TV, and I still don't understand why the show that just never got an Emmy. It's just the craziest thing. You should get one in retrospect somehow. But both for completely different reasons. Hush was, I remember reading because there was no script. It was literally a beat sheet, which is basically, and this happens and then that happens, and then the gentlemen appear, and that's followed by the people lashing themselves with straitjackets. And it's like, okay, whatever. And it was just, a great exercise of just seeing what you could do without talking. It was fabulous. He had tried once before, I can't remember what episode, but we were in the library, and he passed it to us and said, look, you know, I haven't written anything because you're all very talented, and you know, let's see what happens when you improvise. Nothing. Which probably gave him the idea for Hush. But it was insane. We just we thought. And once more with feeling, I mean, right from, I mean, I know James has said a few times, you know, it was a big surprise to everybody, and that it was like, what, we're doing a musical? Right from the word go, from the half-hour presentation that we did, when we were waiting to go into the library, we blocked it and they were lighting it, and there was me, Joss, and Sarah Michelle standing there chatting about stuff, and he and I started talking about musicals, because I'd done a few. He was a huge fan, and basically he said, oh, I'd love to do a musical episode of this sometime. Every season I would say, oh, we're going to do one? We're going to do a musical? And he'd say, no, it wouldn't work. And then one summer he just basically sent this CD with him and Kai singing and him playing, and it was just astonishing, and I just was blown away. And I was really sad when we went into the studio. I did my part quite quickly, and so I said, can I just hang around? People would come in. I can't remember. I think Nikki and Emma came in, and Alison came in for something. I can't remember. They were saying, why are you still here? It was like, I just like being here. It's kind of sad, really. But anyway. So yeah, both for completely different reasons, but they were the best. Both directed by Joss. I mean, Joss was just, he's one of the best directors I've ever worked with. He's just fabulous.
If not the best. A wonderful question, bringing it once more with feeling. If I could ask a follow-up. Music, you have a very profound relationship with music in your life. How far back does that go?
I learned because my brother had a band when I was very small, and I kind of, you know, so it was you can sing and you can do that, you know, and so when I was at school, there were two of us that played the guitar and a girl who sang, and we used to go around. We used to do some of the school assemblies, and then we used to we went around to old people's homes, and they looked puzzled when we played songs for them. And then I was in a band when, you know, in the 80s, somebody brought a cover of one of the songs we did, one of the earlier releases we made. It was called Two Way. It's not a great title for a band. But there was a point when basically my partner said, you know, you kind of need to concentrate on one or the other, because I was sort of resolute. I'm gonna make sure that everybody knows that you can be a singer and you can be in rock and roll and you can act as well. And basically, it doesn't work like that in England. I guess it does work more in the States, but I don't know. It's just, you kind of have to concentrate on one or the other. She said, make yourself good at one, instead of sort of just covering everything. And she was absolutely right. And I have worked at being an actor, and I get to sing and play and have a groove every now and again. And so, you know, music is wonderful, and it's a great means of self-expression, but it doesn't have the longevity that acting does. And it doesn't have, you know, as an actor I get to do so much in so many different ways. People say sort of, what do you like more? It's like, I get to do everything. So it's cool.
Up top?
Up top.
Hi. Pretty much everybody's already asked my question, so past that I'm just going to ask if you have any fun stories or something from backstage, behind the scenes on Buffy that you could share with us.
Maybe like pranks or
yeah, something entertaining.
chicanery.
It had to have been great. You had a great bunch, so there must be something.
I don't know. I mean, we had a good time and we laughed a lot. I can't think it was 20 years ago. So a few things have gone down since then. But we did hang out, and we used to hang out in each other's trailers. I do remember Nicky always used to have a rocking chair outside his trailer, and I also I decorated my trailer with fairy lights. It's not funny, but it's kind of cool. And Joss was always, whenever he was on set, he was always funny and fascinating, and it was the best crew I think I've ever worked with. They were amazing. Apart from, interestingly, the Spanish crew on Still Star-Crossed that I just worked with, I've never seen grips and camera crew running from. I mean, we're in the hottest weather I've ever worked in, and we were working in these beautiful locations, but they would be running up the stairs from one place to another just to make sure that we made the day. Never seen anything like it in my life. But the crew on Buffy was a real family. I mean, everyone says, "Oh, we're a real family," but when my kids came to the set, they were always welcomed, and it really did feel like a family. And they've learned their craft from being on set. Both of my kids are actors, and
Well,
they
your
are great.
closest connection totally shows on the show. Like everybody, they all connect so well. Like if you changed any characters, the show would have been ruined.
I guess.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was great, thank you.
Hi again.
Hello.
My question is, what drew you to do Repo, the genetic opera? It's fantastic.
I was over, thank you. I was over for pilot season, and I'd just come over briefly. I had a couple of weeks, and there was nothing going on at the time. It was fairly dead in England, and not much was happening in LA. And then I got a call from my agent saying this young director, Darren Bassman, wanted to see me. And they had cast someone else. I can't remember who it was, but it was someone very different from me who couldn't do it. And so they were like, "We need to see it." So they saw me, and they played me some of the tracks, and there was Thankless Job, and there was some great stuff to sing, and it was like, and they said the only thing is we've got limited time, and we know your availability, and because do you think you'd be able to do it? And I think I had to do all my songs in about 2 days, and I said yeah, it'll be all right. But actually I did, and it was great. And I mean, basically, I was taken by the theme and the whole idea, but also Terence and Darren were just such. I've never seen such enthusiasm in a director. He was just like, Darren was just like, he pitched it to me, and I was auditioning for him. And I had to do, I think they asked me to come back and do the song Shiloh at the end. And I did it, and Alexa came in, and bless her, and I did it with her, and they liked it. So I got the gig, and it was amazing. And we filmed in a used chemical factory just on the outskirts of Toronto, which Paul Turbino didn't like very much. Well, it was a bit smelly. Thank you.
Hey there. Two-parter for you. Are we ever going to see it in a British comedy again?
Say that again.
Are we ever going to see it in a British comedy again? I.e. Little Britain. Didn't like it.
I've done a couple. I've done one which you probably never will see. It was on. It was a show called You, Me and Them. It was me and Eve Miles playing a couple, and basically I'm the older man to her younger woman, and it's basically how I get on with her family. There was some great people. And it was very funny. We did 2 seasons, so you're not going to see that. I don't know. And there was, Free Agents was a show a British show that I did, where I played a very, very rude character. Children, cover your ears. But basically, I played a real life. it was written by Chris Neal, and it was brilliant. And I played a character called Duncan Heath. Well, not my character wasn't called Duncan Heath, but it was based on Duncan Heath, who was quite a very well-known agent, who basically would have everybody in the board meetings, he'd ask them what their sexual activities were over the weekend. And he'd pick someone out to say what they'd done over there. Anyway, so he was fun to play. But when NBC bought the rights to it, and I came over to do that, and I don't know, they somehow messed it up. It was very, very strange. You guys never got to see the In-Betweeners movie either, did you? Because I played Will's dad in that. I had one scene, and I had to snog a 20-year-old, which was just wrong. I kept apologising. I kept saying, I'm really sorry about this. She played my wife, but she was 20-something. She was younger than my daughter. Wrong! They thought it was really funny.
You thought it pays the bills.
Well, I liked the bit, you know, because with Will, because he was slightly embarrassed about it, needless to say. But anyway, it was wrong. It was wrong. Wrong? Sorry.
Right over here.
Hi,
Ooh. Hello.
Hi, thank you for throwing me off.
Sorry.
Pretty much for
I assure you, he hasn't been doing it to me at all.
It's super helpful for me.
See, this one has your back.
Wow, this is a great room. Pretty much when everybody goes around saying which character in Buffy they are, I always end up being Giles. Because I'm always being like, why are they doing that? You guys, stop, you know, this is a bad idea. Why aren't you listening to him? Oh, library, I want to read books. So, yeah, that's the character I identify with best. So, yay. But,
You want to get knocked down?
Yeah, apparently. But mostly, I love Buffy, but Merlin has always been really close to my heart, personally, because I love mythology. And so I watched a lot of Bradley and Colin's little vlogs from behind the scenes. Those are really interesting, but I was wondering if you had any fun stories from behind the scenes with them.
I'm not good at funny stories.
I had a feeling after the last person, I'm like, this might be a rubbish question, but I'm gonna
I do remember one of the things, and it's been widely, lots of photographs, people used to find it very funny that I had a little pink game that I used to play, and everybody found it and said, why is it pink? I said, well, I don't know, it was there and it happened to be pink. But there was a lot of, you know, when the tournaments were on, there was a lot of sitting around waiting, and so I got my little, I can't remember what they're called now, those little, was it a Game Boy? Was it? There you go.
That one, yes.
Yeah, but there was
exactly
pink.
That one.
It's pink. But there was, no, I mean, because it was a really, really lovely bunch of people, and we used to hang out. We looked forwards to we used to get like a couple of months in just outside Paris, filming in Pierrefonds. Unfortunately, as the years went by, they basically realised that they were filming in corridors and things. They could actually build those corridors on set in Wales. Not the same. And nothing wrong with Wales, just it's not the same as Paris. And so it ended up sort of being like 3 weeks, and they'd what's called double banking, which is when they basically put 2 episodes together and they shoot all the location stuff together. And bless him, Colin would run they'd have two units on the go. And then they ended up triple banking because they could. So I've never seen Colin would literally do a scene and then run to the other unit to do and then But yeah, when we were shooting in Cardiff on an estate, not a nice estate, like a like a working estate, like a crap, rubbish old place. It was like an old warehouse, and when I was shooting in Bradley's sort of bedroom quarters, it was in this sort of little annex on the side, and it was a really low ceiling, and when it rained, you literally couldn't hear yourself speak, let alone film a scene, so we'd literally have to wait for it to stop raining, inside. Made sense to somebody, I don't know. That's as funny as I get. So.
The comedy of discomfort.
I know.
It was very unpleasant. Hilarious. Right up here.
Hi, Anthony.
Hello.
So, maybe a lot of people don't know that you had 2 seasons on Dominion, where you had a very good American accent.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, in terms of that character, it's one of the more villainous roles you've done. Is there, if you had a chance to go and explore that character, what types of things would you want to explore more with that character, or another character in terms of a villainous character?
Well, what was interesting about Dominion, from where I was, basically the second season got better than the first, and I never quite understand, apart from the fact that Sci-Fi saw fit to, because we were basically went sort of hand in hand with Defiance, and we both complemented each other, and we both boosted each other's numbers, and then for the second season, for some strange reason, they decided to put us with WWF, and change the night, and then not publicise it. Made a lot of sense to me.
It's a great way to promote a television show.
Yeah.
Make it very difficult to see.
Well, Sci-Fi basically it's a policy that basically they publicise the first season, and then they think word of mouth will do the job for the second season. That's all right as long as you don't move it. But anyway, second season I thought was great. We ended up our finale, which was a great finale actually on the second season. We ended up like with 500,000 viewers. Anyway, so it wasn't a surprise when we got canned. But the story arc, David Wheel's story arc had gone. Basically, I'd gone into the sort of the bowels of the earth and come out the other side. And the way they'd written it, it looked like I was then going to, I don't know, I was fascinated to see where he would take the character. Because I'd sort of kind of seen the light, I guess, I don't know. I'd had this whole thing with my son that I felt that I'd killed, and then I did. Spoiler, sorry. Sorry. But I guess, I mean, the thing that I love about villains, especially with someone like David Wheel, is that for me, there's always a reason why somebody does what they do. I mean, Uther, I've always said, basically he was an old-fashioned king and an old-fashioned father, and as far as he was concerned, he'd make the right decisions. The fact that everybody else thought he made horrible decisions, it's their problem. But it does mean that they're human, and it means that you can identify with them, and it means that you don't necessarily hate them. Sometimes you see something they do, and it makes you sad, because you think, oh, you're making such a mistake. That, for me, is more interesting than just plain bad. Although, the Krillitane was kind of cool. He was just plain... but he was animal. He was a reptile, and so the fun on Doctor Who is the fact that I thought, as a reptilian, when the great scene that I had with David Tennant in the swimming pool, I was basically stalking him as a what I thought a very large reptile would do. As you do. But that's, I mean, yeah, I don't, people say, oh, I love playing villains. I mean, I like playing everything, because everybody's got a reason that they do their thing. And I'm in a show at the minute that I'm working on called The Split, and it's written by Abby Morgan. It's a great script, and it's about divorce, and it's about the repercussions of divorce and prenup agreements and what happens when families get broken up. And the young women who are the lawyers and their mother basically are the way they are because their father walked out when they were young, and he comes back, and that's me. So he's kind of, is he a villain or isn't he a villain? He's got reasons for what he did, and that's it's life, it's human, and it's kind of interesting. And then there's Donald Trump. Anyway,
As an American from the great state of Texas, I have to tell you, I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, they've just given me the signal that we're having to wrap up. So, if you could select one from either of these bags,
right.
We're going to give $200 in EB Games credit away to somebody. I've got a question to wrap us up that I think will hopefully give all of us a little bit of something interesting. It's Buffy related, so I think you'll enjoy this. So we picked one, and we have. All right, it's seat number 27, and now the row. The numbers, I think, get larger as we go to that side. Row O, seat 27. O27 right there. Thanks again to Action Popcorn for that. Now, to wrap us up, to send you on your way, send us on our way after a really wonderful Fan Expo Canada weekend, we mentioned the 20th anniversary of Buffy.
Yay!
You've been doing these conventions for a little while. Have you gotten any particularly interesting, unique, weird things that have been brought to you to sign? Or even just surreal, someone bringing you an action figure, a statue, something like that?
I've had a few action figures. The only thing is when they actually want me to sign the action figure, and I end up having to sign its bottom because that's the only thing that you can sign. Which is quite interesting because it's very small and shiny.
Well, before you go, do you have?
I think I beat Nathan Fillion.
We've opened up a whole new repertoire of voiceover characters you can play now. Do you have anything coming out that you should promote? Anything people should go out and get?
No, there's another show that I'm doing. I'm doing 2 TV shows at the minute. I'm sad that Still Star-Crossed didn't last a little longer. It was a beautiful idea and a beautifully shot series. I guess somewhere along the line something went wrong. I don't know what, but anyway. I'm doing another thing called Girlfriends, and again I'm in another show. It's written and directed by Kay Mallor, who did a thing with my daughter Daisy called The Syndicate years ago, and we met her, and she said, "Oh, I'd love to work with you sometime." She's from Yorkshire. And I said, "Oh, I'd love to work with you." Anyway, she called me at the beginning of the year and said, "I'm doing this thing called Girlfriends. I'd love you to be in it. And I want Daisy in it as well." So Daisy and I are both in this thing called Girlfriends, but we're not related. We're completely separate characters. And I'm sure they're going to think that my character slept with their mother, because it's... But anyway, I'm very proud of both my daughters.
Everyone, let's hear it one more time for Anthony Stewart Head.